Welcome back to the Remodel Report, the show where we translate contractor speak into plain English so you can walk into a kitchen project actually knowing what you are agreeing to. I am Chris, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Jessica. Jess, today we are doing something a little different. We got our hands on a full glossary, 93 kitchen remodeling terms, all built on the brand new NKBA 2026 Kitchen Trends Report.
I am so glad we are doing this one, Chris, because most glossaries out there are just a boring alphabetical dictionary. This one is different. It is built on a survey of 634 industry pros, and there is one number that basically frames the whole thing. 76% of them expect kitchen footprints to actually get bigger, even as overall homes are shrinking. So the kitchen is not just a room anymore. It is the room the entire house gets designed around.
That is a wild stat. Okay, so before we get into cabinet doors and countertop edges, the report starts with 11 big ideas, the themes behind everything else. Can you give us the fast tour?
Absolutely. So the first is whole home continuity, the idea that your kitchen finishes should flow into the rest of the house, not stand apart. That is why 72% of pros picked transitional and timeless as the top style. Then space expansion and light, using big tile, glass doors, and layered lighting to feel bigger. 95% rank natural light as a top priority. Then socialize, gather, and connect, the kitchen as the social hub. Then multi-purpose hubs, where kitchens flex into home offices and home workstations. 100% of pros now say lifestyle features are a standard part of the layout. The fifth theme is personalized style, and this one has a fun generational split. Gen Z wants smart home features, millennials with kids want multifunctional layouts, Gen X wants smarter storage, and boomers want ease and accessibility. And here is the money angle. Gen X and boomers are the two groups spending the most on remodels. Then we have storage maximization, smart technology, which the report says is still in its growth phase, organic and earthy aesthetics, seamless design where appliances basically disappear, material sophistication, that quiet luxury feel, and finally health and wellness, things like water filtration and low chemical finishes.
I love that the data actually tells you who is spending. So if boomers and Gen X are writing the biggest checks, designers are absolutely paying attention to accessibility and storage. Quick one on the smart tech, though. Anything people should not overinvest in?
Yes, one honest data point. Despite all the smart gadgets, homeowners are still really reluctant to adopt voice control. People still just prefer pushing a button. So do not blow your budget on voice-first features expecting them to sell the kitchen. On the color side, neutrals are winning at 96%, greens at 86%, blues at 78%, and get this, wood grain has now overtaken painted cabinets, with white oak the single most popular wood species.
Okay, let us get into the words people will actually hear from a designer. There are these new style names that are not quite traditional or contemporary. Walk me through them.
Sure. Organic Modern Revival is sleek modern lines with natural earthy materials, and it is the third most popular style right now. Modern Country is farmhouse cleaned up. Sharper lines, skinny shaker doors, brushed brass, minus that deliberately distressed look. Quiet Luxury is elegance through material quality instead of ornamentation. Warm Minimalism is the single dominant trend for the year. Soft edges and neutral colors. Japandi is Japanese simplicity meets Scandinavian warmth. Pale oak against matte black. Intentional living is more a philosophy. Every surface earns its place. And Newstalgic is vintage details like arched doorways done with modern performance.
Great. Now the big one. Cabinets. This is where most of the money goes, right?
Correct. Cabinets eat 30 to 50% of a kitchen budget, so this is the section to read slowly. The first big fork is face frame versus frameless. A face frame cabinet has a 1.5-inch wood frame across the front of the box. That is the traditional American approach. A frameless or European style cabinet skips that frame and mounts the doors right to the box. The payoff is real. Roughly 10 to 15% more usable storage inside, plus the tighter gaps you need for that seamless look. Frameless is up 69% per the NKBA.
So frameless for storage and the modern look, face frame for that classic feel. What about the joinery? The stuff that actually decides if these cabinets survive 20 years.
The term that matters most is the dovetail joint. Those interlocking wedge-shaped joints in drawer construction. Still the gold standard for durability. A dado joint is a groove cut to seat a drawer bottom or cabinet back, and it is a good quality signal when it is glued. Cope and stick joinery is the interlocking profile used to build framed cabinet doors, and it holds up better than doors just glued flat. And watch out for camlock assembly, that quick connect hardware in ready-to-assemble cabinets. Faster to build, but it does not match real joinery for the long haul.
Okay, this next one, overlay, I know is a huge source of confusion. There was a Reddit story about it, right?
Oh, it is the single most common cabinet miscommunication homeowners report. One person got partial overlay cabinets when they assumed they were getting full overlay. And they wrote, "We never discussed overlay. We just pointed to cabinets we liked and asked for the same look." And a whole thread of people piled on saying they had no idea what overlay even was until the cabinets showed up. So, let me define it. Overlay is just how much of the face frame the door covers. Full overlay hides almost all of it for that clean, modern look. Partial overlay leaves the frame edges visible, more traditional and budget-friendly. An inset means the door sits flush inside the frame, the highest end and the hardest to build well. The lesson. Say the word overlay out loud to your designer and get the exact type written into the contract.
That is such a cheap mistake to avoid, just saying the word out loud. A few more cabinet terms before we move on.
Yeah, quick hits. The toe kick is that recessed gap at the floor so you do not stub your toes. Crown molding finishes the top against the ceiling, and light rail molding is the slim piece under upper cabinets that hides your under cabinet lighting. For corners, you have got the Lazy Susan with rotating shelves versus the blind corner cabinet with pull-out shelving. People genuinely fight about these. One Reddit user called Lazy Susans the devil because things get lost behind them, right next to someone calling it their favorite thing in the kitchen. Ask your designer to show you both in person. And on the health side, 4 labels to know. Carb 2 for formaldehyde limits, GreenGuard Gold for stricter chemical limits, FSC for responsibly sourced wood, and low VOC finishes generally.
Perfect. Let us talk doors and hardware, because there is a hinge thing nobody warns you about.
There is. So shaker doors are still the default, a flat center panel in a square frame that works everywhere. The 2026 twist is the skinny shaker, where the frame narrows from about 2 inches down to half an inch to 1 inch for a more modern look. Just know that narrower frame is less forgiving, so installer skill matters more. Slab doors, which are totally flat, paired with push-to-open hardware, are how most handleless kitchens get built. And if you want texture, mesh and fabric inserts like cane and rattan, plus reeded glass, that ribbed glass that hides what is inside, are both trending.
And the hardware finish. I remember a Reddit regret about handles that really stuck with me.
Matte black and brushed brass are the 2 dominant finishes this year. But before you fall for a dramatic pull, check how far it sticks out. One of the most upvoted regrets in a kitchen thread, over 130 upvotes, was handles that projected too far. The person said, "We all got hurt all the time and everything snagged on them. So if you have young kids or a narrow galley, ask for the actual projection depth, not just a photo. And underneath, soft close hinges are now the baseline. If a cabinet does not have them, that is a budget tier signal. For drawers over travel slides that extend past 107%, let you actually see the back of a deep drawer."
All right, countertops. Second biggest line item after cabinets. And I know quartz versus quartzite trips everyone up.
It really does. They are completely different materials. Quartz is engineered about 93% ground quartz plus resin. It is non-porous and never needs sealing, but it is heat sensitive to around 300 degrees, and it runs $50 to $150 a square foot. Quartzite is natural stone, harder than granite, more heat tolerant, but it does need sealing once or twice a year, and it runs $70 to $200. One Reddit homeowner admitted they assumed quartz was the real crystal and felt like an idiot after visiting a stone yard mid-project. So if your sample looks a little too perfect, just ask, is this engineered or natural? Then there is sintered stone, brands like Decton and Neolith, which is basically fireproof and UV stable, 80 to 200 a foot.
And the classics are still in play, right? Granite, marble, that kind of thing.
Very much so. Granite is natural stone with one-of-a-kind veining and excellent heat resistance, needs annual sealing, 40 to 100 a square foot. Marble is the baker's choice because it stays cool, but it etches easily and needs the most upkeep of any stone here, 75 to 250. Porcelain slab is fired clay with the color running all the way through, very low maintenance, 50 to 150, a nice middle ground. And a butcher block insert at the prep zone is unbeatable for knives, 40 to 100 a foot, but it needs regular oiling and it scratches.
Now here's the part that surprises people. The edge profile. That is where a lot of hidden budget lives, is it not?
Huge. Eased edge, just a slight rounding of the sharp corner, is the standard with no upcharge. Bullnose, a fully rounded half circle, adds $5 to $10 a linear foot. Beveled, an angled cut across the top, is 10 to 15. OG, that formal S curve is having a real comeback and runs 15 to 25. Shark nose, an aggressive taper that creates a finger channel underneath, is very popular with handleless cabinets at 20 to 40 a foot, and it demands a skilled fabricator. Mittered edges, where two pieces are joined at 45 degrees to fake a thicker slab, add 30 to 50 a foot. And the waterfall edge, where the counter wraps down the side of the island to the floor, is a $500 to $2,000 premium all by itself.
So the same slab can cost wildly different amounts depending on how you finish the edge. Good to know. What about the backsplash?
The term is statement splashback, a full-height backsplash treated as the visual focal point of the room. 60% of NKBA respondents say that is where they would introduce a bold color, often using handcrafted ceramics like zellige tile, which the industry is now calling the new subway tile.
Let us hit smart tech, because you mentioned the marketing outruns the reality here.
It does. 4 connectivity terms to know. Matter is the universal standard backed by Apple, Google, Amazon, and Samsung. If you want appliances from different brands to actually talk to each other, look for Matter certification. Thread is a low-power mesh network, so devices can talk without a Wi-Fi hub. Wi-Fi 6 and 7 is the high-bandwidth standard you need for anything data-heavy, like a fridge with a camera. And Bluetooth LE covers the low-power short-range stuff, sensors, and small accessories. Then there are grid-aware appliances that optimize energy use against utility pricing.
And induction. That is becoming a code issue in some places now, correct?
Right. Induction cooktops heat the pan directly through magnetic induction, faster and safer than gas, though you do need induction-compatible pans, and some 2026 residential codes are starting to mandate it. Invisible induction goes further, embedding the tech under the countertop so there is no visible cooktop at all. But here is the regret I want everyone to hear. Underbuilding your electrical. One Reddit commenter said, "Just when you think you have enough outlets, double it." And others pointed out it is really circuits that run out first. Try running a toaster, a microwave, and a coffee maker at the same time on one kitchen circuit. Your electrician should be planning neutral wires at every switch. Cat 6A wiring for the future. Dedicated 20-amp circuits for countertop appliances, a 40 to 60-amp circuit for induction, and a 200-amp panel if you're going full electric.
That is the cheapest thing to fix before the walls close, and the most expensive thing to fix after. Okay, layout. I grew up hearing about the work triangle. You are telling me it is dead?
Being replaced, yes. The classic work triangle connects the sink, stove, and refrigerator, and it was designed in the 1940s around one cook and a small closed kitchen. It does not account for 2 cooks, open floor plans, or dishwashers and beverage centers that did not exist back then. What is replacing it is kitchen work zones. A prep zone, a thermal zone for the cooktop and oven, a cleanup zone for the sink and dishwasher, and a consumable zone for the fridge and pantry. There is also the broken plan layout, which uses partial walls and islands to define zones while keeping a visual connection. A middle ground if a fully open plan feels too loud.
And pantries have gotten serious. Butler's pantry, scullery, messy kitchen. What is the difference?
Great question, because people use them interchangeably, and they are not. Extended pantries overall are up 52% in demand per the American Institute of Architects. A butler's pantry is for staging and serving. Think counter space and wine storage between the kitchen and dining room. A scullery is for prep and cleanup, a second sink and dishwasher so the main kitchen stays presentable. A messy kitchen is a full second cooking setup hidden behind the scenes for the actual mess. And a walk-in pantry has gotten so big in some builds that designers have started calling the biggest ones the Costco pantry.
The Costco pantry. Amazing. Let us do color and accessibility quickly. Then the contract terms, which honestly might be the most valuable part of this whole episode.
On color, the palette leans into jewel tones. Aubergine, deep navy, emerald, sapphire. 2 techniques to know. Color drenching is putting the same color on cabinets, walls, ceiling, and trim for an immersive effect. 2-tone cabinets means different finishes for uppers versus lowers, or the perimeter versus the island. And then a category that deserves way more attention: universal design, also called living in place. Wider doorways, lever faucets, waist-height pull-out shelving, and knee clearance under counters with ADA minimums of 27 inches high, 30 wide, 19 deep. This is not just an accessibility checkbox. Boomers are a huge share of remodel spending precisely because they are planning to stay in their homes.
Okay, the contract terms. This is the section that saves people real money. Hit me.
Start with lead time, because it varies enormously by cabinet tier. Stock cabinets are fixed sizes, days to 2 weeks, $100 to $300 a linear foot. RTA, ready to assemble, is 1 to 2 weeks and $75 to $200, but you build it yourself. Semi-custom lets you modify sizes, 4 to 8 weeks, $200 to $500 a foot, and that is where most homeowners land. Custom is any size, any feature, 8 to 16 weeks, $500 to $1,500 plus. And here is where people get burned. One contractor breakdown put a $50,000 to $75,000 kitchen at standard painted shaker with mid-tier quartz versus $150,000 to $300,000 plus for custom handmade cabinetry with premium stone. The word custom can mean wildly different things depending on who is saying it. Ask exactly which tier a quote assumes before you compare 2 bids.
That gap is enormous. And the other 3 terms, change orders, contingency, escalation clause?
A change order is any formal modification to the scope, price, or timeline, and it averages $1,000 to $5,000 per change. Which is exactly why finalizing every selection before construction starts matters so much. A contingency budget should be 10 to 15% of project cost as standard, and 15 to 20% if you are in an older home, because every remodel eventually finds something behind a wall. And a price escalation clause is a contract provision that lets the price adjust if material costs spike. In a volatile market, ask your contractor about it directly rather than discovering it later.
Jess, give me the takeaway. If someone listened to all 93 of these terms, what is the actual through line?
Here it is. Every single miscommunication we talked about today, the overlay mix-up, Quartz versus Quartzite, the lazy Susan debate, the underbuilt electrical, the handles that snag everyone in the hallway, the word custom meaning 3 different price points, they all have the exact same root cause. Nobody sat down and walked the homeowner through the decision before it got made. Knowing the vocabulary is not about sounding smart in a showroom. It is about being able to tell your contractor exactly what you want. And just as importantly, push back when a so-called trend is really just a fad that will not earn its keep in 10 years.
Which is exactly the gap USA Cabinet Store built its process to close. Since 2011, they have grown to 14 showrooms across Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, Texas, New Jersey, Florida, and Tennessee. And every project gets one dedicated in-house designer as your single point of contact from the first consultation through installation. You make decisions on real samples in a showroom, not on a screen. Overlay type, corner cabinets, and hardware projection all get specified in writing before production. Electrical and trade coordination happens at the planning stage instead of showing up later as a change order. And the tier, stock, semi-custom, or custom gets named out loud and in writing before the quote is built.
And you do not have to take our word for it. Across those locations, the company holds roughly a 4.8-star average on Google across more than 775 combined reviews, plus BBB accreditation, NARI, and NKBA membership, and Best of House Service awards every year from 2016 through 2026. So go read the reviews for the showroom nearest you.
That is our show. If you are planning a kitchen this year, visit us at cabinetstore.com and book a free design consultation at your nearest showroom. Bring this vocabulary with you and ask the overlay question. Jessica, thank you as always.
Thanks, Chris. And to everyone listening, remember, say the word overlay out loud. It is the cheapest mistake you will ever avoid. See you next episode on the Remodel Report.